Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the third episode of Tales from the Post. I'm your host, Shaggy. We have retired Staff Sergeant Larry Roberts in the studio today. He brought notes. I've got my notes as well. Hopefully, it's going to be a good time. So, thanks for coming to the studio.
Thank you.
He's actually the American Legion post commander of Post 69.
For one more week. One more week.
What, did you get voted out or something?
Well, every year we transition out. Every year, once a year. We change command every year.
Yeah, but I thought you could run for multiple terms.
You can. But I decided not to run. I had it for 2 years.
Oh. Just too much work, or you got other stuff?
I got so much on my plate. I will go over all that other stuff too. So,
I think we're going to talk a little bit about the some of the other stuff that really.
Okay.
So, Staff Sergeant, Army. It says right here, you're 19 Delta, Cav Scout. My second episode was a Cav Scout from Vietnam, Mr. Rod Love, or Chief Warrant Officer 2. I forgot to mention that in his episode. He's actually Chief Warrant Officer. They do exist. They're not as rare as you'd think.
Nope.
But so we got retired Staff Sergeant in the studio today. 1st 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment.
Mm-hmm. Black Horse.
Black Horse. I don't think I've seen that patch.
Oh yeah. It's quite a big unit back in history. When I was in Fulda, Germany, we were the ones that guarded the border between East and West Germany and Fulda, Germany. That's where they expected the Russians to come through at.
So you enlisted in 1988.
Yep.
So you were there for the fall.
Mm-hmm.
You watched the wall fall.
Mm-hmm.
Elaborate a little bit on that shit, because that was before my time. I was born in '89. So, yeah. So I don't have a lot of vivid memories of the wall falling.
So I can't remember the exact date, but I can remember it was a Friday evening, and this is in Fulda, Germany, when the wall came down in 1990. It was a Friday night. We get a call at 11 o'clock at night. The alarm goes off. The sirens.
On a Friday?
On a Friday night at 11 o'clock at night.
How many? I mean, I would have been drunk at that point. So, like.
That was part of the problem. So the Fulda Gap is where they expected that the Russians were going to come across and invade. So we get a call 11 o'clock at night that the border is falling and they don't know what's going on. We didn't know if the Russians were pushing the Germans or what was going on. So we got activated at 11 o'clock at night. They couldn't find half the soldiers because of Friday night. Everybody was out partying.
Yeah.
And so we ended up having to go out to the border with cooks and finance and any soldier they could find, put on the tanks and the Bradleys. We adapted and overcame. It was rough, and I was a little nervous at the time. You know, when you got a cook in a Bradley, you know, going out to a combat situation, you're like, uh-oh.
So in basic, did they tell you? Because I went to basic at Benning, and you said you went to basic.
Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Fort Knox, yeah, you were OSET. So I don't know if it's because I went to Benning, home of the infantry. They would always tell us it doesn't matter what your MOS is, you're infantry first.
Right.
Did they tell you all that as well?
Oh yeah. And cavalry is a mixture of everything. The cavalry is a mixture of infantry. The cavalry is a mixture of the Rangers. The cavalry is, and I don't know. The original special forces back in the Civil War and before then was the cavalry. So we're the eyes and ears for the commanders, because you got to know what's going on out there. You got to know before you can send in the tanks. You got to know what you're fighting against before you go in there and fight.
Yeah, information is the most powerful tool.
Right. So that was our job. Eyes and ears on the battlefield. Now, we can fight the fight if we needed to, but they prefer us to go in there and find out what's going on, report it, pull security, why they call in the big boys to come and take care of it. However, we couldn't fight the fight. We were trained on demolitions. We were trained on call for fire. We were trained on everything you can imagine. We were all trained on it. Now, what you were going back to with the cooks, yeah, we're all infantry first.
Yeah, cooks my drill sergeants will always say it doesn't matter what your MOS is. You may be in a kitchen, or you may be in a truck, or you may be in an office. The next day you could be a door kicker.
But the problem with that is you take a cook that's been cooking for 3-4 years or even 2 years go on the range once every 6 months, and that's it.
Can't hit shit.
You know what I mean? And then they want to go out and put them in a Bradley or a tank to fight the fight. I mean, it's better than nothing. But
mine was a little bit different because I was transportation as an 88 Mike, and we did all obviously our uploads and downloads, driving any wheeled vehicle, but we also would do gun truck stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know if that platoon is going to be a convoy escort. So you better learn how to play a 50 cal like a flute,
right,
or a Mark 19.
But none of these guys have ever even been in a Bradley or in a tank.
Yeah.
So, fighting a fight. So we use them as the grunts. And the driver of the Bradley was moved up to gunner. The gunner was moved up to a TC if we needed to. So it was a lot of moving people around. But the problem is if you have a cook that's never been in a Bradley trying to drive a Bradley or trying to...
Yeah, tanks don't have a steering wheel. They have
right
levers.
They have like a how do you call it?
It's like a two-part.
Yeah,
like a two-part steering wheel, right?
Yeah,
because the 113s had that.
That's 113. You had the sticks.
Yeah,
this is like a half steering wheel.
Okay, so not as bad. So they did have a steering wheel,
right? But trying to operate those things and you've never done it before, it's like a crash course.
Yeah,
in combat.
Well, my last unit was 1st Armored Division. It was 4th Brigade out of Fort Bliss, and the motor pool was shared. And even though we were the logistics company of it, and we were in the Brigade Sport Battalion, so it was mostly logistics, we'd have a Special Troops Battalion, and they had Paladins. Our motor pool, we had M1A1s in there. We had the 113s. I'm trying to remember what other track vehicles we had. Not 100% sure, but if that unit was out in the field or something, those vehicles still had to get PMCS'd, which every Monday it's preventive maintenance checks and services. And we have, I think it was a 1088 form. We have to go and check for leaks, make sure it fired up and all that shit. So we would still have to cover down.
Combat ready. Shit's combat ready.
Yeah. We'd have to cover down on the units that's out in the field or whatever that didn't take their stuff, or maybe they're out at the National Training Center. So we'd have to look after their shit. And that's 113s are fucking small.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, so back to your story, because this is supposed to be all about you. I've got a little rant about
it's okay. So, that happened, and we were out there for approximately 10 to 14 days along the border, not knowing if the Russians were pushing the people across the border or people were just fleeing or what. We didn't know.
What were the shifts like? 12 on, 12 off? Or
no,
like 24 hours.
24 hours
for 2 weeks.
Yes. Damn. So within that, usually you were up for 72 hours, down for as much as maybe an hour or two, then back up.
You just started seeing shit walk through the wall at that
point.
You
did. So we took turns. But when those people were crossing the border like that, you didn't know what was going on. You didn't dare fall asleep because you didn't know people were coming up to the vehicles.
Well, also, you don't know if those are Russians getting embedded or maybe it was communist sympathizers or something that's like, we're going to go fuck up the west side because they've had it great for so long. And
we didn't know. It took about 10 to 14 days for the word to finally come down that, hey, it's okay. They came across themselves. The border actually crashed and so on and so on.
Because Russia, leading up to this, Russia was challenging the U.S. whenever we were bringing in air supplies after World War II. So World War II, 1945, all the way up until 1989 when the wall fell. Germany was split. Berlin was split. Throughout that whole time, Russia made it to where we couldn't take supplies into Berlin. They were trying to intimidate our cargo planes and stuff by not crashing into them, but getting very close to try to throw them off. Intimidation tactics. They were doing everything to keep us from helping the people of West Berlin. And so there was that animosity that was building, and they saw that communism was losing to capitalism because capitalism's keeping West Berlin fed, where East Side is starving and everybody's trying to escape East Berlin. Like, it was a perfect petri dish of communism versus capitalism, and capitalism fucking won. But back to that.
Yeah. So But before that happened, when I first got to Germany, I wasn't boots on the ground maybe a week and had to go work the border doing dismount patrols. And literally, we watched a guy try to cross the border, and there was nothing we can do, and he got shot up.
Coming to our side?
Trying to cross into our side.
Like
and there was nothing we can do to sit there and watch it.
It was mostly East Berliners trying to come to West Berlin.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of shit. Well, you have certain rules of escalation, and there's standard operating procedures or SOPs on what we can and can't do that the military tells us. We can't interfere with other nations' stuff. Like even on the joint bases where we'll have like the Australian Army or German Army, whatever goes on in their compound, we have no say over.
Right.
And then people trying to escape Russian-held territory, until they're on our side of the fence, there ain't shit we can do for them.
Mm-mm.
So
except watch.
Yeah, except watch. You're in the cut couch of the motel.
And I was a brand new private, 19 years old, been in the military for very, very short time, very, very short time, right out of basic training, get there and watch that happen.
It'll fuck you up.
It did. But
is this about the same time that you watched the helicopters do their little
So another situation, we're doing dismount patrols along the border, and there was some showboating going on, but I'm not gonna say who, what, where, anything like that. So there was some showboating going on, and a Russian Hindy decided to show off too, and didn't make it and crashed
against something that
it was showboating against one of our helicopters also, and
our shit's just built better.
Yeah, a lot better, and the Russian helicopter did not make it and crash. And
I wonder if he survived.
No.
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, I guess.
Yep. You don't mess with the U.S. Don't showboat us, because I'll show you.
No, we put so much money into our equipment, it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've been looking at some of the new technology and stuff that they've declassified. So this is already old to our military. And it's just crazy. It's almost like the maneuverable sand table, so they can build like a topological map, and it shows different colors and stuff based on elevation. Pretty cool shit. And then the stuff they're putting in the new, it was the new version of the Warthog. I don't know if it's still the A10, maybe the A10-2 or something.
Yeah, I've seen a lot. So a lot of the, especially in Desert Shield, Desert Storm, we worked with a lot of Warhogs.
I think they're great.
A10 Warhogs, and they are. You don't want to mess with them. You don't want to mess with them.
Our cameraman does not love the A10.
I have a critical view of it.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, it saved me a couple times.
Yeah, A10s, just the sound, the brrrr, it's like,
yeah,
it's almost like a lullaby.
That and the Apache helicopters.
I may have been around one of those. I'm not sure, because we drove at night, and I watched a truck get blown up. Or I didn't watch it. It just happened to be at the front of there's two convoys on this bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out later that it was my cousin's unit. He had left prior, but I thought at the time like my cousin got hit. And there was this field to the right of us, and there was a helicopter. We always have the helicopter escort based on the zone, and especially after we get hit, QRF, all that shit's coming out. And they just sprayed. I just see a bunch of tracers light up this field to the right of us, but I couldn't make out what the helicopter was. Could have been an Apache, Black Hawk. I don't know. So this is just a little bit. This is just your Germany stuff.
Pretty well, part of it. I was in my first duty station was Fulda, Germany. Like I said, that was where the border was up, the east and west border. And that situation when the wall came down, that was pretty. In fact, I got pieces of the fence and pieces of the wall.
Are you allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's still.
Well, we weren't allowed to take anything from Saddam's palace, like the
No. This is the east and west Germany.
I know,
the wall.
We weren't allowed to take stuff.
Oh yeah,
like that.
It was wide open. It was wide open. It was after the wall came down. It was all clear. Oh yeah, they got the wall, the fence. People were busting the wall. If you go back in history, you'll watch people standing on the wall tearing it apart.
Yeah, I saw some videos of people with sledgehammers. It was all graffitied up and everything. And they were just beating.
I got a piece about that big. And people don't realize over 98% of the border was fence.
Yeah, no, it wasn't just fence. They had the like the sand trap area with.
Well, yeah, they had the sand trap, the sand traps, and then they had some places they even had landmines.
Yeah.
They had constitute wire. They had actually barbed wire back then.
Well, what was the metal structures that they built that looked like almost like stars they planted?
That was fence. It was fencing.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. Okay. And then they had these tank obstacles where they lined them all up and people couldn't. They looked like dice.
Kind of like
dragon teeth. Yeah.
Okay.
Dragon teeth. Yep. And they were everywhere.
I've seen those, but not from that. I've seen them from, I think it was World War II. Germany used them against us to try to stop us, and they ended up spending a lot of money on like a tank to be able to break through it. Yes, it was the Doomsday Turtle that we were working on. The British ended up breaking through because it wasn't that hard to get through apparently. So we spent a lot of money. If you have time, look up Doom Turtle. I think it's the name of the tank. It's the double track tank. It was like the only heavy tank we ever made, but it was for those.
Yep.
So I felt like we haven't spent enough time on the Berlin Wall, but I mean, you got a lot of interesting shit.
Oh yeah, the Berlin Wall. I tell you what, before it came down, we used to volunteer, so we knew we had to do border duty. Okay, we knew it all the time, so we always volunteered to do the dismount patrol. There are a couple reasons why we volunteered. One, we didn't have to get inspected.
What do you mean?
Because if you're out doing on the dismount patrol, they don't know, they know where we're at, but it's hard for them to come out and inspect us while we're doing the dismount patrol. Where if you're at the base camp, they inspected all the time. Make sure you got this, make sure you got that, make sure higher up. And so we're doing dismount patrols. We were actually boots on the ground, gone.
I mean, I think it'd be vice versa, right? Because it's like, okay, at least you're going in a vehicle, so you got some protections, you got comms and everything like that. But you're like, fuck it, we're gonna walk on foot.
They wanted us to walk the whole border because a lot of these places the vehicles can't get to.
How many miles was that?
Many miles. Many miles. A long. You couldn't do it all one day. And there was base camps after base camps and base camps along the border. So you only have this sector. So it's not like you're doing the whole borderline because that is, we're talking about, thousands of miles.
So how many miles did you say you walked in a day?
An average day we would do about
10?
Yeah. Probably about 20K. A little over 10 miles, 12 miles. Yep. And sometimes we stay out for 30 days straight. We do 10 miles, camp out, 10 more miles, camp out.
That's a similar story I hear from all scouts. It's like they're just gone.
The advantage we had is we knew where everything was at. So a lot of the local towns and stuff like that were along the border. We'd stop and get some broachins, some lunches, some, and drinks and other adult stuff.
We couldn't get any of that shit whenever we were deployed or anything because we had to respect their culture.
That's why we volunteered to do it.
You couldn't have anything. You couldn't have anything nice.
Well, we couldn't, but when you're out there, that's why we volunteered. We'll do it because we knew what was out there.
So, do you have it?
The unit I was in with the Black Horse, Alpha Troop, 111th ACR. If I had to go back to the border, I'd go back with them right now. That's how tight this group was. This tight, we knew what each person did. We knew everything. I mean, we all thought alike. We all took care of each other. There's one thing in the soldier's creed that says, "We'll never leave a fallen comrade." Well, guess what? We would not leave anybody behind.
Yeah, that's part of the Army values, the soldier's creed. I'll probably end up having the editor put that up there.
I got a copy, so I gave you a copy of the soldier's creed in that one packet I gave you.
In that packet?
Mm-hmm.
No, I
didn't. The very first page. It says the soldier's creed.
Book?
Huh?
In what book?
The packet, the big packet I gave you?
Yeah, it was a brochure at the front.
Okay, go through the big the class and stuff.
Okay, because I went through the blue book that you pointed
Yeah.
out.
The big packet, like paper size, the front page, is Soldier's Creek.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take a look at that.
Very first one.
I'm fixing to go through it tomorrow because I got to give it to my aunt.
Mm-hmm.
And also my stepdad. My stepdad's been having a hard time getting his VA benefits. He may be a future guest. Don't know. He doesn't really want to share his story. He's one of those vets. It's like he just.
And I understand.
That's been the hardest part about this is
getting people to open up.
Well, I was always antisocial. I was kind of a homebody, an introvert. It was getting over that to go out and meet people, and then talking to people and trying to get them to share their stories, because I don't want anybody to come on here feeling like they have to. It would help out, and the cause, which I haven't even explained this to the channel yet, is the profits from this is actually going to go to veteran burials. The VA doesn't even cover everything for a veteran cemetery. They only cover what's called from gate to grave, according to our VSO Stephanie. There's still stuff at the funeral home that they don't cover. It's very hard on the families financially, especially whenever they're in mourning and they're going to overlook some steps. They're going to say yes to any help they can get, not knowing of any consequences or if they have to pay stuff back. I want to be able to eradicate that for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually, it's all in my 5 and 10 year plan, is I want to be able to start helping with burial costs. But eventually, by the 10-year plan, I want to be able to cover all the burial costs for anybody with an honorable discharge. Apparently, they changed them. There's no longer, it's like, other than honorable, honorable under general conditions, dishonorable, and honorable. They apparently got rid of some of them, and now it was a one word when I can't remember. I was just talking to a guy yesterday who's still in, and he was talking about how they changed the discharging. And it's not even the DD-214 anymore. It's now like the DD-214 to something, something, something.
So, no, they're still doing the DD-214, okay? What they're doing is also you got a DD-215, which is any corrections on it. So, for example, let's say if you were on your DD-214, there was times messed up on it, or awards messed up, or anything like that. So you can get it fixed, and they won't issue a new DD-214. They'll issue a DD-215 with the corrections.
Okay, I have to do that because they left out my expeditionary medal.
Right.
So my Love Me book, I've got
right.
I earned the
expeditionary. So my highly recommendation is before people physically get out, once they receive that paper, look through it like a fine-tooth comb. Because the longer you out, the longer it is, the harder it is to fix things. You see what I'm saying? So, because they always fix that stuff before you get out. And that's why I highly recommend everybody get a hard copy of your medical records before you get out.
Yeah, I made hard copies of everything.
Yeah.
And I Love Me book because I didn't want to lose anymore.
That's the best recommendation I give everybody. Before they get out, they get a hard copy of their medical records and their DD-214, everything.
He knows a lot of this because he's actually a VSO. You're the
State Benefits Chairman for the American Legion.
Okay, State Benefits Chairman for the American Legion. You were a veteran service officer, correct?
I'm still the same thing. It's the same thing.
Same?
It's the same thing, just different name.
All right. So he has a lot of information. And we jumped over a lot because we were going to put that in I was going to try to fit that in towards the end because that's one of the things he's very passionate about. But let's move on to your Desert Storm, Desert Shield.
So I'm going to so after my 4-year tour in Fulda, Germany, okay, I actually got out of the military and joined the National Guard in Michigan as an 88 Mike truck driver.
The Nasty Girls.
Okay.
88 Mike?
I didn't last very long with that because when, you're getting ready to go to combat and these guys, and I'm not going to say it's all of them. I'm never going to say that. But when you have some of the senior people that couldn't even read a map and they want to lead people in combat, nah. And I just got out, had 2 kids, and I'm like, you know what? I got to take my butt back in. So I went, back in and went to Fort Stewart, Georgia, back as a cavalry scout.
Fort Stewart. No, I may have been mixing that up with Fort Gordon. I know one of them was comms, where you go to train for communications. I can't remember if it was Fort Stewart or Fort Gordon.
I don't remember. But I know I went back as a 19 Delta, cav scout.
So how long were you in the National Guard?
11 months.
11 months, not even a full year.
Yep. When they kept talking about, going to combat, and I'm like, oh, no, you guys can't even read a map, let alone. And I went to combat, you know what I mean? I'm like, no, it ain't going to happen.
They promote fast. You could have ended up being first sergeant and teach them the right way.
Yeah, but
probably within 2 years.
Yeah, but I ain't gonna. I want to go to combat. I want to make sure I'm ready and not.
There's a difference between active and National Guard and reserve. I won't throw in the active Guard reserve because at least they're active.
Mm-hmm. They're doing this stuff every day.
Yeah. Where National Guard, it's like, 1 weekend a month and 1 week or 2 weeks a year?
Yeah.
You miss out on a lot of training. And there's a lot of bullshit that they miss out on, too. Painting rocks, sweeping or mopping up rainwater while it's raining, pushing rainwater with a broom.
Cutting the grass with scissors.
Yeah. Well, we had... So in Fort Bliss, it was all sand. Our motor pool was the only... It was like concrete, but everywhere around us was sand. Wind blows, and it blows on the damn motor pool. So they wanted us to sweep the motor pool all the fucking time. It's like, we're just going to end up getting more sand tomorrow and just sweep it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Pain in the ass. So they missed out on that. This is a good part of being National Guard and Reserve. They ain't got to do that shit nowhere near as often. But they do miss out on training such as land nav, going to the range and qualifying, even just mountain clear training, movements, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably one of the U.S.'s proudest moments in how fast we tackled that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we had Saddam, the manufacturing for it, where we came up with the bunker busters in such a short amount of time, Storm and Norman lining up the tanks, moving in on Iraq, like it was, and pushing them out of Kuwait. Like, that was a fast operation.
Very fast.
And it's what happens whenever bureaucracy kind of keeps their hands off. That's one reason Norman Schwarzkopf did it as fast as he did, because he didn't want to give politicians enough time to fuck it up.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, I'm going to do it lightning fast, quick, fast, in a hurry. And it worked out. It shows the efficiency of your military leadership whenever you take the handcuffs off of them.
Oh, yeah. So, we got deployed the Desert Shield Desert Storm. And what a lot of people don't understand is there was one main road going from Kuwait to Iraq.
For us, that was MSR Tampa. I don't know what y'all called it whenever y'all were in.
I don't remember.
Because MSR Tampa was the one that went from Kuwait all the way up towards Mosul and Iran.
Yeah.
And then we had some other side roads. We had one that went out west, and I can't remember what it was.
The main road that went from Kuwait to Iraq.
Yeah, for us, that was MSR Tampa. I don't know the actual name of it. We rename all shit whenever we get there like it's ours.
Yeah. So the roads changed.
Yeah.
And the operations change. Every time you turn around, they're changing. So anyways, we got there, and there was one road, like I said, going from Kuwait to Iraq. And when we invaded, the Iraqis decided to leave Kuwait to go back to Iraq. Well, the main road was in a valley. Okay? So, and they decided to start shooting at Apache helicopters and a squadron of A-10 Warhogs.
Fucking stupid.
With AKs.
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Yep. So there was nothing but 10 miles of nothing but cartilage and bodies and stink. We had thermometers busting at 120 degrees there. And the oil fires. So you can imagine between the oil fires and literally 5 miles out, you had to put your gas mask on because of the smell of the carnage of the bodies from the heat. And you pull up there, and you can actually watch vultures pulling eyeballs and pulling meat off the bodies. And it makes you sick. Even though they're our enemy, they're still humans, and it made you sick. I mean, literally sick.
Yeah.
And then you had the oil fires. The oil fires were so bad that literally every 3 days they gave us new uniforms because you couldn't wash the oil out.
They didn't do that for us.
Yeah.
But whenever we were in I remember most of the oil refinery plants, that I came across was southern Iraq, like right across K Crossing, down by. So Navistar was northeast of K Crossing. Yeah, north by northeast of K Crossing. The moment you cross the border and you're jumping on MSR Tampa, oil fields to the left.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just these little miniature Eiffel Towers with a big ass flame coming off and black smoke.
Yep.
Coming out.
Sometimes the smoke was so bad, it almost looked like nighttime during the daytime. That's how bad some of the oil fires were. And we had chemical alarms going off every day. And the chemical people say, "Oh, it's okay, it's okay." Things reading something that ain't supposed to be breathing in.
Well, it's every generation has a very similar story. For Vietnam, it was Agent Orange.
Mm-hmm.
Desert Storm was oil fires.
So Desert Shield, Desert Storm, you got the oil fires, you have the burn pits. They had to take these little white pills that were supposed to protect us against nerve agents. Kind of find out they were coated with something, and on and on and on and on. I mean, ever since the Civil or World War I, our soldiers have been exposed to something.
Yeah, for GWAT, which is whenever I was in, it was the burn pits, Camp Lejeune water, the asbestos out at Fort Lewis, and there was some other posts too.
Yeah,
we had oil fires.
So we also, when we were there, we had the motor pool explosion in Camp Doha.
See, I don't remember where Camp Doha was. I mean, that was probably torn down, and then whenever we actually came back in 2003, was probably replaced with something else, or because they did renaming. Like Balad used to be Anaconda. They ended up changing it to like Joint Base Balad. Baghdad itself was split up amongst a bunch of different bases. So you had like Stryker, Liberty. Yeah, and I mostly hit the main ones along the hardball road.
So like I said, we had a motor pool explosion over there. They decided to have a ammo depot in the motor pool.
Stupid.
So, and all the vehicles were fully uploaded for combat missions. So they had a vehicle catch on fire, and it was a big giant domino effect. The explosion was 10 days long.
Damn.
Boom, 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 boom. You know, nonstop. Actually, we thought we were being attacked, but come to find out, this motor pool was exploding.
Y'all must have lost everything in that.
We did. Literally everything. In fact, one of the Gulf War illness things that they're questioning is Camp Doha explosions.
So is that notable that the VA is like, oh shit, we got to recognize
because we were exposed to depleted uranium from the tank rounds, as well as the burn pits, the oil fires, and all these other issues that were all going on at one time.
Damn. Yeah, he showed me pictures of it. I'm going to try to find them so I can have someone put them up there. But who knows? It all depends on copyright laws and whether it's royalties, if I have rights to it or not, because I do have rights to certain things. I do pay out of my own pocket for that stuff, for rights to music and certain stock footage and whatnot. It's just, do I have access to it? And this was in 91. So you go from, what was the cause of that fire that caused the motor pool to go
up? What that was is I'm not really sure. There was an electrical fire in a vehicle.
Okay.
And like I said, with all the vehicles in the motor pool fully uploaded and having the ammo depot in the motor pool also, it was a big giant domino effect. Boom, 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 boom.
They didn't do that for us. We had an ASP, an ammo supply point.
Yeah.
So our motor pool and staging lanes were all separate from ammo.
Well, they decided to keep it all in the same spot.
Now, I will say we did have magazines of 5.56 that was in the armorer's area. So it was with the weapons.
Right.
But we also had the belts for the 249, the 240, and the 50 cals in there. But it wasn't like we had 155s or Mark 19 grenade rounds in there. It was, at least for us, that was all separate.
Everything you can imagine. Everything in this motor pool. Instead of having an ammo depot point, they decided to keep it all in one spot. So Desert Shield, Desert Storm is also, like I said, we had thermometers busting at 120 degrees. That's also where I had my first mini heat stroke. Meaning that wasn't a full...
You were a heat cat?
Yeah, heat casualty.
Wrapped you up in a wet blanket,
yeah.
ice blanket?
Yep. That's when that I started having medical problems from the heat injuries, and come to find out that, for example, when I got medicaled out of the military due to heat injuries, which we are way stepping the gun now. First, they medicaled me out due to heat injuries. Well, they never diagnosed what the heat injuries was caused from. They never diagnosed it. What come to find out is I had hyperthyroidism.
I have no idea what that is.
So
and I probably should because my family.
your thyroid is your thermometer, like a car thermostat. Okay, and so your thyroid controls your temperature of your body, and it's a gland inside your neck. And so what happened is the only way you're going to get Graves' disease, which is hyperthyroidism, is by chemicals or you inherit it. Nobody in my family has ever had any type of thyroid problem before. Well, you go back, the Desert Shield, Desert Storm, exposure to the burn pits, oil fires, and depleted uranium, all that. Guess what? There you go.
Did it make it hereditary? So now your kids and stuff have a chance of inheriting that?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's good because I know a lot of Vietnam guys.
Agent Orange. Well,
Agent Orange actually ended up affecting the kids.
Well, they don't know that yet.
I know a Navy guy. Both of his sons came out with problems.
Right. So as right now, I got 2 kids with no problems.
So let's get to the part of where you're at Fort Stewart and you're called up for Border Patrol.
Okay. So when I got into Fort Stewart, we got called up to go to Arizona for help the Border Patrol, which we're like, what? It's not very often that active duty is called up to help the Border Patrol.
It's usually a National Guard.
National Guard. It's a state thing. What is going on? What's going on? We did not understand. It was actually kind of fun because where we were stationed at, we were stationed at an Air Force base, and you did 4 days out, 3 days off. And
that's some Air Force shit.
Right outside the Air Force base was a college. So you can just imagine the 3 days. You were 3 days off. However, when we got there, they finally told us the mission and what it was. We finally realized why we got called up is because the drug smugglers were coming across and terrorists were following behind them. So they're using the drug smugglers as a front to make sure that it's clear to come through.
Yeah, we saw that problem today.
Exactly. So this has been going on since many years. This is back in '97. So you can just imagine and it was going on way prior before that.
I mean, 27 years at this point.
Right. So, and that's been coming up before then. So what happens is they were letting the drug smugglers go ahead, the terrorists were, and then they were following them to make sure it's clear. So when we got there, we were set up an observation post, overwatching where we thought they were going to be coming through. And we didn't even know that there was terrorists. We were just told we were to be eyes and ears to let the Border Patrol know when the drugs are coming across. Late at night, we had night vision and we observed drug smugglers coming through a tunnel, coming up through the border and walking. So we reported. As we were reporting it, we were told to let them go by, and then we got a call from the Navy SEALs, go ahead and lock and load. Don't let anything else through the tunnel. Right there is when we noticed that there was something more going on than just drug smugglers.
Oh, shit.
So we reported it, and they wanted the drug smugglers to come through and think it's clear when it really wasn't. So we locked and loaded, and we were told not to let anything else through. And we can hear a gunfight going on inside the tunnel. It was the Navy SEALs on the other side coming in behind them, and so they were trapped. They could not get through.
SEALs doing SEAL shit.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, when you're talking about a tunnel maybe half the size of that door, where pretty much you had to crawl through to get out of.
There's really no room for air and aiming.
You know, when you got 2 or 3 50 cals and M60 machine guns pointing at it, there ain't nothing going to get through there. Nothing. And so we heard the fight going on, and then we overheard the radio saying that the Border Patrol got the drug smugglers, and the SEALs called and said, all clear.
What was the terrorist organization back then? Because for us, it was Al Qaeda, and then it evolved into ISIS.
I don't remember the name of the. A lot of it was hush hush. You know what I'm saying? We weren't told until we were there in place, and they called us over the radio. Do not let anything else through. That's when we knew something wasn't. But before that time, we had no clue. We were just there.
Sunshine and daisies.
We were there just to help the Border Patrol prevent the drug smugglers coming through. But to that point, we were told nothing.
I bet you the Navy SEALs knew.
Oh yeah, they knew. They knew. Trust me, they knew. And then we're like, oh.
They've probably been tracking those bitches for a while.
Oh, yeah. In fact, there's a movie. I can't remember the name of the movie, but there's a movie with that mission.
Well, speaking of movies, we're going to get into that because I'm actually excited to hear this in a little bit. So let's get over to your Bosnia.
So
you've so little back filler for everybody else. This is already Germany, fall of the Berlin Wall, already Desert Storm, with Storm and Norman, all that shit. You're dealing with terrorists here in the United States. Now you're going to Bosnia.
So I went to Freiburg, Germany. That's where Elvis was stationed at back in the 70s. We got called up to go to Bosnia. And a lot of people don't understand Bosnia is kind of, so the Russia has got these little states all over. It's kind of like the United States, okay? And they've broken off, these little states have broken off from Russia and became their own little country.
Back whenever it was the USSR, and then the USSR dissolved.
Right, exactly. So one of them is Bosnia. And if you don't know history, World War I actually started from Bosnia.
Okay? I didn't even know that.
Yeah. And so how Bosnia started.
That's where Archduke Ferdinand was shot at? In Bosnia?
Yeah. Yep. Huh. That's where the World War I's kind of lighted up from.
I knew that he was assassinated. And he was what, from Hungary or Austria?
Austria, yeah. Yep. I
remember a little bit from high school.
So, anyways, and if you watch the movie Behind Enemy Lines, the first movie Behind Enemy Lines, I'm trying
to remember the actor on that. I want to say Owen Wilson, but
it was
Owen Wilson. Okay,
Owen Wilson. He was a fighter pilot that was flying around and taking pictures of the stuff that's going on in Bosnia. Well, they took some pictures of some stuff going on that we weren't happy with and got shot down.
That was what mass burials, right? So
when he got shot down, as he's running through the movie, as he's running through to get picked up in selfage, he found himself hiding in not burn pits, but burial pits where they had women and children ethnic cleansing, and landmines everywhere, and so that movie is true. Behind Enemy Lines is the true movie of what Bosnia.
Now, ready for the shocker? How do you know that, Mr. Larry?
Well, if you watch the movie, the exact same things that Owen was running through, we found over there too.
How?
We were there 2 weeks after that happened.
2 weeks after that fighter pilot was shot down.
2 weeks, yep.
He was there.
I was there, yep.
And he's saying with his first-hand testimony that behind enemy lines, the mass burials, the mines, all that shit was real because they came across.
Yep, exactly. I mean, almost to the T. What I saw in the movie was like, holy crap, that's the same thing I saw. Almost to the T. I mean, they made that movie almost perfect.
Well, good to know it's not all bullshit that's shown together and didn't dramatize everything.
Right. So I was there over Christmas time. It was hard for me to explain to my kids why I was not at home. So I was telling my kids that the reason why I'm in Bosnia is so that we can clear a path for Santa Claus for the kids, to make them feel understandable.
You don't want to ruin the magic. I put on NORAD and I track Santa on Christmas Eve, so my kids go to bed before Santa gets to our place.
So we're
just to keep the magic alive.
Yeah, we were telling them, there's some bad guys there, and we were keeping it clear for Santa Claus to get to make sure those kids. And we did that. We actually got gifts and gave it to the little villages and stuff like that, the kids, because they had nothing. They had no power. They had bullet holes everywhere. So when I hear that we have issues here, we don't have issues. Try going over there when they have bullet holes, no power, and no food. All the adult men are gone, forced to fight. That's problems. And when you got little girls standing in flip-flops with blown up buildings behind them and no food, no power.
Well, it's a lot of people never experience anything besides what's been provided to them.
Mm-hmm.
The comforts here in the United States, or maybe in England, Australia. A lot of these built up nations that have, air conditioning or electricity on demand. You can flip a switch on. There's still underdeveloped.
We're pampered. We are pampered so bad that we're spoiled.
Yeah.
Point blank, we're spoiled.
We've always had a pretty good caliber of living.
When you're there, and like I said, a village has no power, no food, and you see all these kids, your heart starts dropping for them. Really.
Whenever you travel to these places, you get an understanding.
We would give our food up for those kids. We would call them supplies of everything we can get our hands on just to make sure those kids had something to eat. We
did the same thing in Iraq. We'd throw out honey buns or Rip It energy drinks. We get muffins, Pop-Tarts, stuff like all our class. I think it was class 1. Before we get on mission, we'd go draw a bunch of class 1, and whenever we're out, just throw it to the kids and stuff.
And that, even one of the missions I had to do over there is we had to escort congressmen and senators from base camp to do their little venture to see how things are going on, and we had a vehicle breakdown, and the senator goes, "Do they take AAA?" No, they don't take AAA. We had to wait for, and a lot of times over there in Bosnia, the comms were in and out because it's all mountains regimes, and so you had no communication. Vehicle breaks down. All you can do is wait for another convoy to come through.
Planned and executed over 50 weapon storage inspections.
So one of the things we had to do in Bosnia was weapon storage sites. The enemy would hide weapons, stashes of weapons, and we'd find them. And
the supply caches.
Yeah, we'd find them. And that was one thing. As a Cav Scout, my job was to find the enemy booby traps, minefields, and women's storage sites and stuff like that.
We did skip over your deployment to Egypt.
Okay.
Project Vet Relief. You want to touch down on that?
Yeah. So one of the other missions I did while I was at Fort Stewart is we got called up to do a training exercise with the Egyptians in Egypt, and the pyramids are great, but it's not.
They're 8-sided.
Yeah, exactly.
People don't even realize the pyramids actually have 8 sides to them.
And not only that, it's nice and beautiful and everything like that. But when we look down, you look this direction, everything's high class and like that. You look to the right a little bit, you're like, what is this?
Yeah, it blew my mind whenever I first found that out too. Like the pictures of the Pyramid of Giza, if they just flip the camera 180, it's like, holy shit, there's a huge ass city here. And then seeing the aerial views of the Pyramid of Giza, it's not actually a square. Every side is actually slanted in.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually has 8 sides to the pyramid.
Yeah.
I was like,
but I'm going to say it is a lot of history. It is pretty cool. It is.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And how they did that, I have no idea how they built those things, because I have no idea.
One day we'll find out.
Yep.
But
so when I got in 2001 is when I got medicaled out of the military. Back in Desert Shield, Desert Storm was the first time that I had heat problems. I had mild heat stroke, and from that point on, I could not handle the heat. But they never diagnosed what was causing it, so they gave me a 10% disability. The VA did. So my wife got a job as a pharmacy tech, and she told her boss my symptoms, and he goes, have Larry get his thyroid checked out. Okay, and that's when we discovered it was Graves' disease is what was causing the heat exhaustion from the chemicals of the oil fires and the burn pits. So I filed a claim. Of course, got denied.
yeah, the government's going to fight you on
So
that.
I've learned how to maneuver the system and collect the evidence and how to the doctor's opinions, the buddy letters, and things like that. Now, the VA does it their own way, okay, but the only one's going to take care of you is you yourself. So what you're doing is you're getting ahead of the game.
Well, this is why you have Project Vet Relief.
Yep.
Correct?
So Project Vet Relief, 9 years ago is when Project Vet Relief came about. And it's a program only in the state of Florida. Each state, American Legion has their own little version. Okay? So Project Vet Relief started out as a financial assistance and a referral. So we all know, like during COVID, a lot of veterans lost their jobs. So Project Vet Relief stepped up the plate and said, hey, we're willing to pay a bill. It's a hand up, not a handout. So Project Vet Relief said, hey, we will pay a bill for you. However, for us to help you with the long-term fix. Okay? So if you lost your job, we're going to help you get a new job. By the way, all veterans with honorable discharge have veterans preference for county, state, and federal jobs. They have veterans preference.
Is that based on the state, or like is it different rules for different states?
It's supposed to be every state.
It's supposed to be every state.
It's supposed to be every state. Okay, so I can really explain for Florida, but it's supposed to be every state. Okay, so Abraham Lincoln created the veterans preference after the Civil War to make sure veterans get good quality jobs, after they get out. That's where the veterans preference started, was Abraham Lincoln. So if we got a veteran that's financially in heart, doesn't have a job, I take them down to the Heartland workforce, and they try to find a county, state, or federal job. They get priority. I literally had a veteran that said he was looking for a job for 6 months. Took him down there, got paperwork saying that they're assisting a gentleman find a job. So he was able to qualify for Project Vet Relief because he's showing us that he is truly trying. Within 2 days, got a job as a garbage man, getting paid $20 an hour.
I mean, garbage men get paid pretty good.
$20 an hour just to drive in a truck, and now so we paid a bill for him, and now he's got a job, getting $20 an hour, benefits. So that's one option. Another option is I can help him enroll in the VA with a disability. That's another option. Or we can help the veteran enroll in the college with the GI Bill to go to school and get paid to go to school. So you got to show us that you're willing to help yourself, not talk the talk, but actually walk the walk for us to pay a bill for you. Because otherwise, we're not fixing a problem. You're going to be in the same situation next month. So that project really started with that. And then a few years later, we've realized that with the veteran suicide rates as high as it is, it's getting worse. We have came up with the SPI, Suicide Prevention Initiative. So what that means is we have teamed up with 14 organizations in the state of Florida that provides free counseling and therapy for veterans for PTSD, or TBI, which is traumatic brain injury, or MST, military sexual trauma. So if we get a veteran that has any of those symptoms and doesn't want to deal with the VA right away because of paperwork, bureaucracy, or afraid, or whatever,
bureaucracy.
We can send a veteran to one of those 14 organizations at zero cost. And they will help them cope with counseling, therapy, and have the FDVA there, Florida Department of Veterans Affairs, on site to help them with the disability claim. And walk them through the whole process, and you're not alone.
And what do they do at these areas to...
So, I'm going to give you an example. We have one called the Mothers of Veteran Suicide. Right now, we have 210 mothers enrolled in this program.
I'm actually going to have one of their representatives on the channel, hopefully here soon.
Mm-hmm.
She's actually supposed to be the next episode, but she's... Not only she spent a lot of time with these Mothers of Veteran Suicide, but she has family matters that she's actually donating bone marrow to help her family out. So she's a very giving person.
Yeah,
and
very.
She's being very, very generous by coming onto the show, and I can't wait to have her on. But I want to make sure that it's when she's ready and she has time for me. I don't want her to feel like she has to make time for me.
So right now we have 210 moms. This is nationwide. The biggest bulk of those 210 are from Florida. And growing every day. I mean, we are getting these calls right and left for the moms. And then we have K9 Line.
Well, This is the low ball. It's actually closer to 40 because they weren't tallying in homeless veteran suicides, and they weren't calculating. They weren't doing math properly.
They were only calculating the ones enrolled in the VA, which is only 10% of the veterans.
So after they started measuring all veterans, whether they're homeless or not, whether they're enrolled in the VA or not, whenever they started making the calculations for that, that number jumped up. It's just 22 a day is the marketable one.
So how the 22 a day came about was from 9/11 to 2017, the VA was saying 22 a day. So from 9/11 to 2017, that's what, 16 years?
9/11 to 2016? No, that's 15 years.
Okay. So 15 years, the VA was saying it's 22 a day. So the American Legion, the VFW, the AMVETS, Vietnam Veterans Associations, all went to Congress and said, wait a minute here. How can it be 22 a day for that long period? It's got to go up, down, something. You're using the same number over and over and over and over instead of doing your surveys.
Yeah, I'm scoring a 90 on every test going back 15 years. Like, how is that possible? Yeah, 91.
It ain't possible. So the Congress mandated the VA to do another survey. Okay, they came back with 17 a day. Well, they only counted 5 states, and they only count the ones enrolled in the VA. So how is it that, and then right after the pandemic, they came back with a new survey saying that the suicide rate's going down. Well, yeah, because you weren't open to help them. And how can it be going down
when everybody's locked in their
everybody's
house?
Locked in their houses, everybody lost their jobs, everybody this and this, and then you had 2 or 3 major hurricanes. So you're going to tell me that it went down? How can that be? There's no way. Well, they're starting now. They're starting to realize that they screwed up and starting slowly to change their attitude about it because we're up in arms about it. And
as we should be.
And don't lie to us. Don't lie. If you don't know, say I don't know. But don't lie about something that we know is wrong.
I tell my wife, like, I would rather deal with a sour truth than a sweet lie.
So going back to the SBI side of the Project Vet Relief, we have Mothers Veteran Suicide, K9 Line. So if you need a service dog in the state of Florida, I have 3 service dog trainers that I can call. My primary one is K9 Line. I got Wolfhound Legacy. I also got, what's the other one? Wolfhound Legacy and K9 Partners for Patriots. I have SOF Missions, which is an awesome program in Tampa. They're a 4-day retreat.
I don't think I've heard of them.
They're awesome. I mean, awesome. You go away for 4 days. You're grouped up peer-to-peer with other veterans. You have the FGVA there. You go through workout programs. You do everything. You're trying to rebuild your confidence is what you're doing during that 4 days. And you're with a peer-to-peer with similar situations. So you're venting with the 4 other veterans and saying, hey, you're not alone.
Sometimes that's all you need.
Right. And then we have, I Got Your 6.
I'm aware of them.
I Got Your 6. Take people out hunting, fishing, camping. You name it, they do it.
I've seen people getting the tattoos, the IGY6.
Yep. So, and then we also have Dr. Janelle Royster, who is a psychiatrist. She's a Air Force veteran. She's on call 24 hours a day. If I get a call that a veteran needs somebody to talk to right now, she's on the phone with them. The phone.
That's dedication.
And so, and the good part is she doesn't charge that first one because we want to make sure the veteran's okay. Now, after that, you know what I'm saying, we have to decide if further counseling is needed and stuff like that. She also has her own practice on top of that. We have Eric Anderson, who is a retired Marine in Ocala area. He owns a horse ranch, and he takes veterans at a horse ranch for the weekend. All expense paid. You show up there on Thursday night. You're assigned a horse. That horse is your battle buddy for the whole weekend. Everything you go. If you eat, that horse is eating with you. If you sleep, that horse is sleeping with you. And on and on and on for the whole 4 days. That's your battle buddy. And we have many other organizations that helps. And the idea of that is get the veterans' confidence, low esteem, back up and saying, hey, we're here for you. We're going to fight this battle together as veterans helping veterans.
this actually sounds like a great place to close because I don't want to take away from the thunder of that. I'd rather the last thought be about that, that there's help out there for all our brothers and sisters. So we're going to cut this episode here.
Okay.
I hope y'all enjoyed the tale of Mr. Larry Roberts. Please like and subscribe. I don't know who's going to be the next episode, but there is going to be a next episode. Thanks for being on.
No problem. Thank you.
See y'all next time.